Your CFO calls you. You hear the familiar rasp, that specific way he clears his throat. He authorizes a $20 million transfer. You execute. The only problem? Your CFO is currently on a flight with absolutely no Wi-Fi. You didn't just get hacked. You got outperformed by a neural network. Look, this isn't some hypothetical what-if scenario. It is the new baseline for cyber warfare. We're dissecting how audio, once our most intimate biological signature, has been weaponized by lines of code that don't just mimic you, they replace you. It's brilliant. It's bloody massive. And it's absolutely terrifying. I want you to pause for a second. Think about the last time you spoke to someone you trust over the phone. You rely on the timbre, the cadence, those tiny verbal tics that make a person, well, real, right? But in the landscape of modern cybersecurity, those biological markers are no longer a security feature. They are a vulnerability. Whilst we were busy worrying about passwords and two-factor authentication, the dark web was busy building a master key for the human voice. In this particular case, we aren't talking about a simple phone call. We're talking about a deepfake corporate video call where an entire room of executives was simulated to trick a single employee. Imagine the scene. You log into a Zoom meeting. You see the faces of people you've worked with for years. You hear their jokes, you see them adjust their glasses. Everything feels standard. Everything feels safe. But everyone on that screen except you was a digital ghost, generated in real time by an AI model trained on their public social media profiles. This is the $20 million phantom. It's a heist that didn't require a single physical weapon or a line of exploit code to breach a server. The hackers didn't need to crack the bank's encryption. They just asked for the money in a voice the victim couldn't refuse. It's a haunting shift in the power dynamic of the internet. I've been tracking the rise of these audio cloning tools and the speed of their evolution. It's daunting. Just a year ago, an AI voice sounded robotic and clipped. Today, it can replicate emotional nuance, breathiness, and regional accents with terrifying precision. It turns out that for a few $100s on a dark web forum, anyone, and I mean anyone, can buy the ability to sound like your boss, your partner, or your bank manager. The reality is that your biological identity is being indexed and commoditized. Every podcast you record, every video you post, every voice note you send, that is all just free training data for the next generation of digital thieves. We're moving into an era where seeing is no longer believing, and hearing is a liability. This heist wasn't an outlier. It was a proof of concept. And honestly, mate, the concept is working perfectly. To understand how $20 million can just vanish into the digital ether, you have to look at what the tech giants actually sold us. The marketing was brilliant, wasn't it? Companies like 11 Labs and OpenAI pitched us a dream of creativity without limits. They told us these tools were designed for dubbing indie films into dozens of languages, or helping the mute find a new digital voice. It felt like a utopia. But whilst we were busy staring at the shiny surface, they were quietly handing the keys to the kingdom to anyone with a decent GPU and a bit of bad intent. Here is the geeky truth they conveniently glossed over in the press releases. These systems don't just record and play back speech like some fancy cassette tape. They map the mathematical latent space of your entire vocal apparatus. Think of latent space as a vast, multi-dimensional map where every coordinate represents a specific, microscopic trait of your identity. By using retrieval-based voice conversion, or RVC, paired with neural codecs, a threat actor can take a grainy, low-quality rip from a random TikTok video and reconstruct a high-fidelity clone that is indistinguishable from the real you. It mimics the unique jitters and shimmers of your speech. In the industry, we call this microprosody. It's the tiny, unconscious variation in your tone and rhythm that banks and high-level security systems use to verify that you are actually you. It used to be the gold standard of identity, right? Now, It's just another variable in an equation. We have reached a point where the deepfake dividend is fully in play. The cost of a multi-million-dollar heist isn't about hiring a team of professional thieves or cracking a physical vault anymore. It's just the price of a mid-tier subscription and a few minutes of compute time. What the architects of Silicon Valley called the democratization of expression is in reality the absolute end of audio proof. And honestly, mate, the most daunting part is that we have no way to verify what is real anymore. But that isn't even the craziest part of how they bypassed the security protocols. Because while the voice was the key, the way they turned the lock was even more calculated. Look, if you're still under the impression that the dark web is just some sketchy flea market for stolen credit cards, you are falling dangerously behind the curve. What I'm seeing now is a professionalized pivot. It's called Vishing-as-a-Service, or VAS. Think of it like a dark, twisted mirror to the software subscriptions we use every single day. For a few $100s, a threat actor doesn't need to be a coding genius or some master of social engineering. They just need a target and a script. But here's the crazy part. The hidden cost here is the total erosion of remote trust. This isn't your grandfather's Nigerian prince email with the broken English. This is visceral. When a mother receives a call from her son claiming he's been kidnapped, or a clerk hears their CEO personally authorize a massive wire transfer, the psychological exploit is quite literally 100% effective. Why? Because our brains didn't evolve to doubt the biological signature of a familiar voice. It is the ultimate zero-day exploit for the human hardware, you know? I find it fascinating and frankly a bit daunting how this represents a total failure of the so-called security by design philosophy. For years, the industry has pushed multi-factor authentication as the gold standard. But these actors aren't wasting time cracking your 20-character password or intercepting your SMS codes. They're bypassing the entire digital fortress by exploiting your ears. Whilst we've been busy building firewalls, they've been studying the resonance of a vocal cord. The security industry is still desperately clinging to voice ID as a legitimate biometric right. But honestly, mate, that ship hasn't just sailed. It's been torpedoed by generative AI.
Warning. If you think your bank or your company is prepared for this level of synthetic deception, you're in for a very expensive wake-up call. But the most unsettling part? It's not just that the voice is fake. It's how they gather the data to build the clone in the first place. You see? You've probably already given them everything they need without even realizing it. Think about those 3-second clips you toss onto your story, the birthday wishes left on a random voicemail, or even just the mindless banter during a Zoom call. To you, it's just a digital footprint. To a neural network, it's a gold mine. Look, with just a handful of these snippets, an AI model can map the cadence, the pitch, and every weird little quirk of your speech. It creates a synthetic skin for your voice. And when you feed that into a generative model, it doesn't just mimic you. It becomes you. The security protocols banks and corporations have leaned on for decades are built on the idea that a human voice is a unique biometric identifier. Well, that assumption is now a massive liability. We're talking about deepfake audio that can bypass the very systems meant to verify your identity. It's a digital masquerade. And let's be real. Your voice is the mask. So, is the convenience of a digital voice really worth the total erosion of audio authenticity? Probably not, right? We're heading toward a future where proof of personhood is going to require physical keys or analog verification. We're talking a return to secret phrases and hardware tokens just to prove you're talking to your own family. If you're still using your voice as a password in 2024, You were quite literally leaving your front door wide open for the most sophisticated thieves in history. The age of hearing is believing is officially dead. It's time to adapt or get drained. The reality is the bad actors are already in this space, using synthetic voices to bypass two-factor authentication and siphon off cash. They're exploiting the latency in our trust. We assume that because we hear a familiar tone, we're speaking to a familiar face. But that cognitive shortcut, that's exactly what they're counting on. We're entering a period of forced skepticism. Every call, every audio file, every voice memo, you have to treat it like a simulation. It's a daunting prospect. I mean, it's honestly terrifying. But staying ahead of these exploits requires a total shift in how we handle security. You need to verify through out-of-band channels. If a financial request comes in via voice, you initiate a secondary check through an encrypted non-voice interface. It's the new tax we pay for living in this era of synthetic intelligence.
Stay cynical, stay secured, and for heaven's sake, stop trusting the voice on the other end of the line. The next time your phone rings and it sounds like someone you know, ask yourself if you're actually recognizing the person or just the algorithm. I'm actually wondering, have you ever encountered a voice you were dead certain was real, only to find out later it was something else? Drop your stories in the comments. And if you want to keep digging into the dark architecture of these digital threats, make sure you're subscribed.